Hey, Guoba here with a guide on Heng Imbibitor Lunae, who we'll just be calling Lunae today. Yet another DPS has come out and yet another breakthrough performance in DPS. He does the most solo and AoE DPS in the game by himself, but that comes at a cost that doesn't let him use the same hypercarry teams that other units can abuse, meaning his teams might not outperform some others. He is the complete opposite of Blade in skill point usage, using a potential 3 skill points per turn for big nuke turns of damage. So we'll look at ways we can avoid that, or how to even enable it. So we'll quickly check out his stats, then explain his complicated hit-based abilities, look at his traces, and then look at how insane his Eidolons are, and discuss his pros and cons. I'll then go through his best relics with calculations, with his main stats and substats, then showcase his light cone, and his next best calculated options. We'll look at his rotations and his different playstyles, and finish with his best teammates and team compositions. If you like this guide, please consider maybe subscribing. These guides take a ton of work and it helps out a lot. Anyway, let's begin. So Lunae is a 5-star imaginary unit and he follows the destruction path, known for survivability or HP based mechanics. Lunae has neither, so he fits the hybrid and blast attack aspect of this path. He is our first real imaginary unit made to be a DPS, but well can deal great damage as a carry too. At level 80, his base HP is 1241, his base attack is a high 698, and his base defense is 363. His speed is 102 and his energy cost is an insane 140. The attack is lovely, but the energy cost will be important in keeping his power down. His defensive stats are wonky and his speed is decent, and as a destruction unit he has a higher chance of being targeted than most units. Let's now check out his abilities. To summarize, Lunae is all about basic attacks and enhancing them to various levels. He has 4 different basic attacks, composed of his standard attack and 3 enhanced ones. His skill enhances basics once at a time, and he can cancel his enhanced ability at any point. Using this skill and using his enhanced basics will consume massive amounts of skill points, which his ultimate will help out with, while the amount of hits his attacks do through his skill and talent will further boost his damage output. His basic levels are essential to his damage numbers, so max that first. His talent is next and his skill and ultimate follow. Everything should ideally be leveled. He is a hypercarry, but it won't be too bad if you don't max out the last 2. So we'll discuss his skill alongside his basic attacks. His skill, Dracora Libre, is an enhanced skill. It will enhance his basic attack to the first enhanced basic attack, and then any following uses of this skill will further enhance it, from Transcendence to Divine Sphere to Fulgurant Leap. So his normal basic attack, Beneficent Lotus, does 2 hits, and deals a standard amount of damage to 1 enemy, dealing 30 toughness damage, regenerating 20 energy as well as 1 skill point. His first enhanced basic is Transcendence. Lunae will now do 3 hits, and his basic attack damage will be heavily increased. It will now do 60 toughness damage and regenerate 30 energy, but will consume 1 skill point. His second enhanced basic is Divine Spear. He will now do 5 hits, and the attack will become a blast attack where he will do 2 hits worth of damage to adjacent targets. He will do a whopping 90 toughness damage, 30 to adjacent targets, and regenerate 35 energy instead, but will now consume 2 skill points. His third and final enhanced basic is Fulgurant Leap. Lunae will perform a 7-hit combo, dealing 5 times his normal basic attack damage to a single enemy at max level. He will also do 4 hits worth of damage to adjacent targets for a total of 860% of his attack if hitting 3 enemies, which is the highest multiplier in the game. It will also do the highest amount of toughness damage we have at 120 whilst hitting adjacent targets for 60 toughness damage. It will regenerate 40 energy and consume 3 skill points when used. On top of that, the skill will give a bonus to the second and third enhanced basics. Starting from the 4th hit, 1 stack of Dominating Roll will be accumulated before each hit, stacking up to 4 times. This is 2 stacks for Divine Spear, and 4 stacks total on Fulgurant Leap. Each stack will last until the end of the turn, and will grant Lunae crit damage. At level 10, this gives his final hit of his enhanced basic a 48% crit damage increase, which is pretty big. Since they stack up and clear at the end of the turn, you can buff this and let his ultimate gain the full bonus. And if that wasn't enough for hit-based bonuses, his talent is next. Righteous Heart is an enhanced talent. After each hit during an attack, Lunae will gain a stack of Righteous Heart, up to 6 stacks. It will increase his damage percent for each stack by 10% at level 10. This works in the opposite way as his skill buffs, instead taking place after each hit instead of before each hit, so his first hit will gain no bonus, but his subsequent hits will become stronger and stronger. Having more enemies hit with his blast does not increase these stacks. And here are all the damage percent and crit damage bonuses depending on the hits for Lunae's various attacks. So Lunae buffs his basic attacks and enhances them, but how does he deal with all this skill point consumption? Well, that's through his ultimate and partly his technique. His ultimate, Azur's Aqua Blutes All, is a blast attack and costs 140 energy. He'll perform a 3-hit attack to 3 enemies, for a large amount of damage to the selected target and a lesser amount to adjacent targets. He will also obtain 2 Squama Sacrosancta, or what I call Lunae's special skill points. They show on his character UI, and he can hold 3 at a time maximum. Lunae can use these special skill points over the normal skill points, allowing him to consume less of the team stock and lessen his skill point consumption. Since he obtains 2 on his ultimate, he can now either cast a free Divine Spear or cast Fulgurant Leap with only 1 skill point. This ultimate will deal 60 toughness damage to all targets hit and refund 5 energy. Finally, his technique, Heaven Quelling Prism Dragon, is an enhanced technique that can only be used when he attacks the enemy to start combat, much like Yukong and Zila, so use buffing techniques before this. He will enter a Leaping Dragon state for 20 seconds, which basically lets him fly around with dashes. It's very fun, and when dashing he will attack any nearby enemies and block any attacks. When entering battle he will attack all enemies for a nice amount of damage, dealing 60 toughness damage to imaginary weak, and he will obtain 1 of his special skill points, allowing for an easier first turn of damage. Now for his traces. His first Ascension passive will grant him 15 energy at the start of a battle. This is sometimes useless and sometimes nice. In Memory of Chaos with Tingyun E6 or moments where you don't want to spam max enhanced basics, then this becomes useful. Other than that, it's not needed unless you're in other content like Simulator Universe. His next passive gives him a 35% chance to resist crowd control debuffs. This isn't the same as effect resistance. This makes enemies with the 100% CC chance now have an 86% chance to CC you, which is nice but not amazing. His final passive is the strongest, granting him 24% crit damage when attacking enemies with imaginary weakness. Since DPS are traditionally brought into weak enemies, this is a great free 4 subs worth of crit damage. His trace stat bonuses will grant him 22.4% imaginary damage, which is amazing, 4% crit rate, which in combination with his A6 is 48% free crit value, and 10% HP, which is whatever, but it helps in his slow playstyle. Now for his Eidolons, which will probably make some people want to go all in. His first increases his talent's Righteous Heart stacks by 4 to a new maximum of 10. As well as that, each hit per attack will now grant him 2 stacks rather than 1. This considerably increases ramp up on the talent and increases his max damage potential at the same time. Great first Eidolon for a 13% damage increase. His second is maybe the best Eidolon in the game for damage, if you can give him the skill points. Not only does it now give him a 3rd special skill point upon using his ultimate, it will also advance him forward by 100% after using his ultimate. It will still work even if you buff your ultimate for maximum buffs during the previous turn too. So you can triple enhanced basic into ultimate into triple enhanced basic at the cost of 3 skill points, for 2,300 worth of attack as damage. If you can keep up with his skill point usage, this grants Lunae a 42% damage increase in my simulation. Most should stop here if they want an insane down hung without going all out. His third increases his skill by 2 and his basic by 1. His basics are everything, meaning he gets nearly a 9% damage increase from this. His fourth will let his dominating raw stacks now end at the end of his next turn rather than in his current turn. This essentially means his 48% crit damage buff is now permanent if you're maxing out his basics, and is a 7% damage increase. His fifth is only a 4% damage increase, leveling his talent and ultimate by 2. His final Eidolon will grant Lunae 20% imaginary resistance penetration on his next Fulgurant Leap, his max enhanced basic, per ally ultimate used before it, up to 3 stacks. This of course doesn't count his own ultimate. 60% resistance penetration is disgusting to have, and completes Lunae as a nuking damage dealer. He wants to set up big turns of destruction, and this is perfect, granting him a final 16% damage increase. You can either use it to have several basics with 20% resistance penetration, or stack up ultimates before Lunae's turn to obliterate enemies. So for pros and cons, what do we have? We have insane solo damage output. It's kinda scary. I'm assuming Hoyoverse wants to release a great DPS for each element, or maybe they just like damage numbers. Of course, this is a solo calculation and teams matter the most. Next we have his versatility. Being a nuke based damage dealer means he can stack buffs all at once and use them to their full potential rather than having off turns where he won't use the buffs that well. He also has a lot of different playstyles. We also have great free to play potential. It's obvious that his E2 is insane and his light cone is desirable too, but at E0 he's a solid unit and he's a strong and easily accessible light cone option, as well as great 4-star teammate options and a great universal set, as we will see. You won't even need his signature if you build your team around it. Finally, we have great stat bonuses. Free crit everywhere, great damage percent amp. He doesn't self buff attack percent, which means he will love that stat, or at least you have the 2 important ones covered. For cons, his first is obvious. His skill point usage is insane, 3 per turn before his maximum damage is a lot, but we will check out ways to either abuse it or avoid it. His skill point usage does mean his team options aren't as universal as other DPS, and he will want a solo sustain that can be skill point positive. Next is Eidolons and Light Cones scale him very well, so for Lunae lovers, you might need to do some pulls. Next, you need to build a team around him very well. He is one of the most selfish DPS in the game right now, and playing his team correctly is needed for his full potential. Now for his relics, it's a mix-up between the Imaginary set, the Musketeer set, and a two-piece combo of both. Imaginary set has the highest potential, but is unreliable without breaks, or well, who himself is a DPS loss if you're just using him with basic attacks. If you want to meet the Arena set's requirements and use Yukong, then you overcap on crit rate with the Imaginary set. The Musketeer set provides the same damage percent as the Imaginary set, since most of Lunae's damage is in his basics. The attack percent on top is great, and if the speed lets you hit a breakpoint on a faster playstyle, then it's excellent and is his best. The two-piece combo is the most universal and provides strong bonuses without compromising a slower playstyle. We'll see both these playstyles in a bit. For plain ornament, you can only really go Brutal and Arena. The other two DPS options are a lot worse in damage. It means that you want to go crit body, speed or attack boots, Imaginary orb, and attack rope. If you aren't using Tingyun or his signature, then NG rope is actually awesome. It provides more ultimates for less skill point usage, providing enough damage to keep up with attack rope, whilst being a bit comfier. Attack orb won't be beating Imaginary orb unless you're swimming in only damage percent buffs, which you won't be. For substats, get your crit rate to at least 70%, then prioritize crit damage and attack percent, as well as speed if you're going for fast Lunae. Now onto Light Cones. His signature is massive for comfort and stats. Brighter Than the Sun not only has the highest base attack among all Light Cones, it also provides some big bonuses perfect for Lunae. It will give 18% crit rate, beautiful, and letting him start with 35% crit rate before Relics when you combine this with his traces. Next, when he uses his basic, he will be granted a Dragon's Call stack for 2 turns up to 2 stacks. This will be permanent once ramped up since he will always basic. Each stack grants him attack percent and energy. This energy is coincidentally exactly enough for a better rotation. Great pickup for any Lunae lover, but his next best option is very competitive if you have external energy, and it's free to play. And this is On the Fall of a Neon, which is his next best. The attack percent amp is massive for him, and the damage percent is nice when it does eventually happen. It is pretty close in damage to his signature, but it's not as close as some people have been saying. Other options are worse than these, so get the free option or start pulling. The other 5-star cones are good stat sticks but unreliable, and the 4 stars have their moments to shine. For rotations, he is an interesting one due to his varying energy gains depending on enhanced basics. With 4 max enhanced basics, he has a rotation of 4 turns, consuming 10 skill points after his ultimate is used. He can replace 1 max basic with a normal basic attack 2, only consuming 6 skill points. With an energy rope, he can perform a 3-turn rotation with either 3 max basics or 2 max basics and a level 2 basic. Here he consumes less skill points, and by my calculations still outputs similar damage. With his signature, you can forego the energy rope and still do a 3-turn rotation once you're ramped up on his passive. And since you can get your ultimate after 2 turns at the start of Memory of Chaos, then you don't even need to worry about ramp up, it will be there for your first rotation. If you bring Tingyun E6, you can even do a 2-turn rotation without energy rope or signature. Or if you have an E5 or lower Tingyun, you'd need his signature. Tingyun needs to be on a 3-turn build with Von Whack, Meshing Cogs and energy rope to perform this, but it's well worth it. If you want to go for a 4-turn Tingyun build, you can go for a 3-turn Lunae rotation and use a basic, letting him consume less overall skill points. He has many different styles he can go with all his levels of enhanced basics, and many different rotations exist with all the different energy gains and energy buffs you can get. You can, for example, go max enhanced basic into basic attack with an E6 Tingyun, energy rope and his signature, and have a skill point neutral Lunae. It's pretty funny. For playstyles, he has 2 major ones that depend on speed, Slow Nae and Fast Nae, with both having the same 2 sub playstyles that depend on skill point usage. Slow Nae is slow Lunae. You run attack percent boots and set everything perfectly to do big damage on a single turn. This allows you to run 3 units in front of him for easy speed tuning for buffs, as well as very easy skill point generation. You can easily generate his 3 skill points needed every turn with skill point positive teammates, and his ultimate gives leeway to some skill point negativity. It has a high damage output per turn over Fast Nae, but of course he gets less turns. Since he goes very slow, with fast enough teammates you can potentially go for more skill point usage from your team. This is a very comfy playstyle and my preferred playstyle. Fast Nae uses speed boots. With Musketeer on top, you're pretty much already at 134 speed, which is the special number for extra turns during certain cycles. It requires either much faster teammates, or good gameplay and consistent skill point generators. It will grant you less burst damage but more actions, for more consistent damage and a safer clear and long fights. This can't use Tingyun's 3-turn playstyle unless she's super fast, and Fastnate is pretty restricted in team comps unless you forego some max basic attacks. So these two playstyles can then vary their skill point usage. With Tingyun, his signature or energy rope, he can forego skill points on some rounds. This lets him use even higher skill point negative supports for his max basic turn, like Bronya, because every unit needs to use Bronya. Max basic into basic is still a ton of damage and only consumes 2 skill points, but overall won't do as much damage as a double max basic with Tingyun, so it's just an option for people that want to use other supports, or use less skill points, or want to give him more turns with someone like Bronya. With Bronya you can go 136 speed Dan Heng, 134 Bronya, and basic attack with him, then Bronya skill him, and then max basic for 60 energy in a short period and a bunch of damage. Any crowd control ruins the setup though, unless your Bronya is E2. I add 2 speed in between them just in case you have E2 Dan Heng. For best teammates, we have 3 outstanding ones for supports: Tingyun, Yukong, and Pela. Tingyun's buffs are as usual amazing, alongside their extra damage. Her energy is immense for him, and the 3-turn Tingyun rotation can provide Lunae with a 2-turn rotation. At about 150 speed and near base speed Lunae, you can pretty much hit 3 Tingyun turns per Lunae's 2 turns. More speed of course helps. Tingyun E6 is massive for Lunae and lets him not need his signature's energy. She also has great skill point energy, especially with Lunae. Yukong is of course a fan favorite for him since they were both revealed. Imaginary damage % trace, planetary rendezvous holder, and her playstyle is made for Lunae. She's all about those skill into ultimate burst rotations, and Lunae abuses that better than anyone. With E2 he can consume both turns of Yukong's buffs, allowing for 2 max basics and an ultimate with Yukong's 80% attack, 28% crit rate, 65% crit damage, and 36% damage buffs. It's perfect for the min-maxers that can tune their team and rotations as well. She will of course need skill point positive teammates to go skill point negative, or she needs to go skill point neutral. Pela is amazing for her skill point positivity. With the tutorial icon she has a 2-turn rotation with just basics. Without it she has a 3-turn rotation, but can bring more defense reduction with resolution. The defense shred is great due to oversaturation on damage and attack % buffs. And overall she's just an amazing unit to have for skill point hungry DPS. For other teammates you want to bring a solo sustain that is skill point positive. Fire MC and March are too risky, and Natasha might be able to with great gameplay. You will ideally want Japard, Bailu or Luocha to generate skill points, and perhaps Lynx and Fushuan can do the job too. Bringing Tingyun or Yukong, then Pela, and then a solo sustain is what I'd call Lunae's standard team setup. It brings great damage and lets him spam enhanced basics all day long. Tingyun and Yukong with Lunae and a skill point neutral Yukong is possible too, when used should be his highest damage ceiling. With them all being very fast and spamming basics, alongside Yukong going for a 3 to 4 turn rotation whilst being skill point neutral, you should be good on skill points with Lunae. You can also do a Bronya team if you really want to use Bronya that bad, letting Bronya or Lunae use their skill points, or you could just use Bronya on your first team. If you use fast skill point neutral Bronya, you'll want E2, and if slow Bronya, you skill spam and let Lunae drop weaker basics to compensate. It won't be doing the most damage overall, but maybe some higher burst damage, especially with something like E2. If she has E1 and her light cone, you may even be able to double max basic, but that's not a reasonable thing to have right now. With the right setup and E2 Lunae, you can now take 5 turns in the first cycle. Next, Mono Imaginary is of course an awesome option people have been waiting for. Luocha, Yukong, Lunae, and Silverwolf lets you force Imaginary into lots of enemies, and I believe 99 or 100% of Quantum Weak enemies don't have Imaginary weakness, so that's a free 100% chance to implant Imaginary against Quantum Weak bosses. Silverwolf is skill point positive too, and it's just awesome for damage. Well, is a bit weird because he's strong, but he requires skill points for good energy generation, and he doesn't provide much damage with just basics rather than Silverwolf who provides so much damage amp. Anyway, that's all. I hope you all get your Lunaes if you're pulling, and hope you learned something or enjoyed the guide. If you did, consider subscribing. Thanks to all my awesome members, thanks for watching, and have a Guoba day.